Welcome to today's episode of the Working Wisdom podcast series, brought to you by the C.T. Bauer College of Business at the University of Houston. We're having a conversation about work-life balance, how to navigate and overcome challenges within your career, and how to make business more accommodating to a diverse workforce.
My name is Chris Gervasio, and I am honored to be the host for this episode, joined with Megan Iselin. Megan, you want to say hi?
Hi, everyone. Shout out to Bauer and our recent graduates.
Woo, go Cougs.
Go
I believe we have graduation coming up soon. Do you remember what that was like, Megan?
I remember what it was like twice.
Twice.
I walked twice, both with my bachelor's in accounting and master's of accounting.
Oh, man. You decided you want a little bit more of accounting in your soup, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. So to give a little bit of info about me, I am a current master's of accounting major, graduating this semester. I can't wait to be super, super done with school. And Megan, where do you work right now?
I'm currently a risk assurance associate at PwC, or PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Oh, wow. What does a risk assurance person do?
So whenever you think of accounting, and I promise this podcast will not be just accounting, but typically the accounting tracks are either audit or tax. So you can think of me as serving in a specialty audit practice, doing IT audit or internal controls audit.
Wow, that sounds really, really cool. Not just accounting, but doing IT stuff, which is where I think most people think the future is.
Definitely.
All technology, Google Homes and Nests in our houses. I mean, that's really where everything's going. What does a typical day look like for you?
Honestly, I despise this question.
I'm sorry.
Because like any good job, and each day and day in and day out should be exciting, it should be fun, and it should be full of new opportunities. So for all of our recent graduates starting their careers, I hope that you have the best experience with your first job, and it likely will not be your last job. A typical day for me does not exist. I recently got back from being over a month in Florida working on an internal project, actually auditing our audit software. I service clients throughout our country, primarily in the Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana area, and I'm excited to say on my internship I did some international travel, and I'm expecting some later this year as well.
Wow, that sounds really cool. How did you, I guess, adjust to this new work? I mean, was there a big adjustment period from you graduating to now saying, all right, well, here's big girl Megan going out to work?
So the thing I really loved about my days in Bauer is I feel like we're very much a college of grit. A lot of our students here, they work while they also juggle classes. A lot of them have families that they've started, and they're challenged to go back and continue their educational career. We have a lot of MBA students or new master's programs in the works, which I think is fantastic, that people are taking the initiative to really further their knowledge and contribute to the Houston economy and the global economy, since we're such a global city. So I feel like Bauer, in and of itself, my college experience prepared me for real life, because real life was always happening. College wasn't just a phase of my life. It was a chapter in the book that is our lives. And so the transition was tough. I'm not writing it off as something that was totally easy. Suddenly I put on my big girl pants and I was just rocking and rolling through life. The adjustment period was challenging, but it reminded me of my transition from high school to college, or whatever previous chapter in my book I came from. So I just remembered to surround myself with people who were going to elevate me. So I reached out to my friends and connections that I'd made during my time at Bauer. Reached out to my friends, reached out to my families, reached out to my mentors. And I made sure to ask for help and raise my hand when I had questions or when I needed additional support. And so I moved out of my house. I got my own apartment, started paying my own bills, enrolled in 401k, got all my insurance taken care of, had to think about retirement, even though it was day one of my new big girl job. And it was challenging. I did a lot of Googling on my own. I asked a lot of what I considered really stupid questions. But it was really important to take the initiative and to set myself up for success, kind of like what Bauer did for me when I was a student.
Wow, that was profound, and that was only the first question. I can't wait to continue this conversation. So you mentioned kind of having a lot of people who have maybe helped you. You've had a lot of connections that have helped you out. How do you give back to either those connections or to Bauer as a whole? What do you do?
So I'm eternally grateful for all of the donors who provided scholarships to not only me, but all of our other students at Bauer, to all of the professors who maybe they work during the day and then they drive against traffic at night just to lecture our students and have the real world applications across all disciplines, not just accounting. But I've heard of great professors that I just missed the opportunity to interact with during my time on campus, that I hope you guys take advantage of all those resources while you're here. I strongly encourage it. And so one of the things that I'm really grateful for are the people that supported me during my time. And because of that, I feel compelled to give back, especially as a young alumni. Although some of us may have issues with student debt or feeling like we have to prove ourselves early on in our career, I feel it's imperative to be plugged in college, not because you miss your days in college and you want to relive whatever your glory days are, because I promise you the best is yet to come, but because some of your most transformative moments happened here whenever you really grew into what you wanted to become. And you should really nurture that environment and give back, because as soon as you build the Bauer brand and you build the UH brand, that elevates you, because you wear the UH branding into the workforce, whether you're an intern or a full-time or a part-time worker. People associate UH and Bauer with you. So you should take that work ethic with you and you should wear it proudly. And whenever you can, whenever you have the time, even if it's limited, just take a moment to come back to the university, see how dramatically it's changing day in and day out, and give back.
Man, that's awesome. I really like how you kind of focus on, a lot of us don't have the dollars right now as recent grads to kind of give back with money, but you can give back with time. You can give back a lot of, I know my personal development times have been with alums, mentors who just took the time out of their day to sit down with me and have a cup of coffee and talk about their experiences and to share that experience. And I mean, I think you also mentioned the non-traditional students we have here who also have real life experience, whereas some students who come right out of high school, they don't have that. And you have a really cool opportunity here, and it would be a shame as an alum not to give back your time. It doesn't have to be dollars, but it can be time that I agree. It raises up the brand. It raises up everyone to a higher level.
And I think one of the things that annoys me the most is when people tell me they don't have time, because you make time for the things that you really love and are really important to you. And I would strongly encourage you to make Bauer one of those places.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I mean, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be the whole university. It doesn't have to be all of Bauer. It can be, one organization or one thing. But there's that small, if you just take care of that small patch of land and make it a little bit better, that overall can impact the whole field.
Definitely. It'll blossom into something great.
Exactly. Oh man, we're just like having some really cool analogies here. These are like proverbs or something. So talking a little bit more, so what else do you do outside of work? What else do you do other than being a great worker and giving back to Bauer? What do you do?
Yeah, it's a great question, Chris. So one of the things that I really take pride in is I never do things just for my resume. Wherever I do things, I'm totally present there. I'm totally engaged, totally plugged in. During my free time, I'm really involved in a lot of community initiatives. Mentorship is something I'm particularly passionate about. I'm plugged into high school and college youth. I'm frequently on Bauer's campus, whether for recruitment initiatives or just to sit down with people and talk about life. I feel like in today's current culture, we have a lot of superficial and artificial conversations. Things are very much canned and they're not organic. And I really challenge people to think about these two questions. Who are you and what do you want? They're very simple, but if you haven't taken the time to do some self-reflection, I really encourage you to just take a quiet moment out of your busy life and really consider that. Because from that, then you'll build yourself up into the person that you want to be today and in the future.
Wow, no, that's really profound. I think a lot of our students may not even have the time. Like they just never ask themselves those questions. They're so focused on, well, I signed up for this one major. I got to stick with this one major. I got to go find a job in that major. But they don't take the time to stop and question, who am I? Does this align with what I want? Does this align with our values? We have some really cool programs here that kind of let you take that time, some leadership initiatives and stuff that let you take your time. How do you, I guess, what tools do you use as an alum to balance this entire schedule? How do you balance all this?
So PwC just went Google, and I'm happy to say that I also function on a Google Calendar. So when I had the opportunity to sync the two, I was a very happy girl. It was a good time. But whenever I have free time, I try to fill it with something meaningful and impactful, not just for myself and my own personal development, but for my local community. Because I would love to be engaged and be active wherever I can. I love investing in future generations, whether it means coming to work for me or just having a strong network in the future. Because who knows who you're going to run into, like whether it be like in the business world, in the just professional landscape altogether, or just in your personal life. You never know who you're going to come across.
Yeah, no, I think the best time to ever be able to create a network is right now in college, because you have no better excuse just to walk up to someone and say hello than going to the same university if you're in the same classes or not. I mean, some of my best friends are history majors, and I have no idea where they might end up. I mean, they could be the next founder of Facebook, Google, something like that. They could be really cool people, and you never really know where anyone's going to end up. So you have this opportunity in college to kind of build your network out and really work on just meeting people.
Yeah, because everyone thinks that networking has to be a very forced experience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the recruiting team, and sometimes it gets tedious. But just remember, people are people, and everyone has a cool story to share. And you just need to ask them like one simple question, like, who are you? It goes back to like the previous point we made together.
Right.
And people have such amazing stories, whether it be from their time at Bauer or before they got here, or if they went an entire different path and then stumbled across campus just being in the city of Houston.
Yeah, no, I think there's a huge misconception with a lot of students who may or may not feel intimidated with networking, and this idea of, well, networking happens at the career fair where I go and exchange business cards and I'm sweating and I'm in a suit and someone else is in a suit, but it doesn't have to be that way. I think some of my own personal best opportunities for internships was just sitting down with someone who happened to like a book that I had read. That's one of my favorite books. And we just talked about books and like how those books had impacted us. And that led to an internship that led to people saying, hey, we'd really like you to come and look at our company. And I was like, well, all right. That wasn't the intention. I just liked you as a person. And I think that's a really powerful tool that people just, I don't know if it's, the generation doesn't focus on, or if people nowadays, we're all caught up in trying to get that next gig, get that next, milestone. But yeah, I think that's a really good piece of advice for current students, alums out there too. It's not just students who have opportunities to grow. Talking a little bit more about having opportunities to grow, how do you feel like as a millennial growing in the workforce and being and developing your own leadership skills? What is that for you as an alum now a year later?
A lot of that just comes down to personal self-confidence. So a lot of times people associate millennials with maybe being lazy, or they don't feel committed to a particular job. But I know firsthand as a millennial, one of the things we crave is meaningful work. Mm-hmm. And we want the validation, and we want to feel like we're actually contributing not just to the economy, but to a greater good and for a higher purpose. And so one of the things I'm really grateful for is on my teams, I'm surrounded by people who support me, who listen to me, and foster an environment where I'm not afraid to speak up. If I'm not content with the current job, if I have a question, if I need to have a difficult conversation, I feel comfortable having those. And I know not every work environment is conducive to that, but I would challenge students to still have those tough conversations because they can lead to change. The worst thing you can do is just not do it at all. Mm-hmm. Even if I get no as an answer, at least I tried. At least I put myself out there, and I don't carry a single ounce of regret because of that.
Yeah, and that initiative really means a lot. So right now we're going to take a quick break and listen to our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Join the conversation. Bauer College's Working Families Initiative is bridging the gap between industry and academia to create a conversation on how organizations can make the workplace more family-friendly. We're talking about flexibility, maternity and paternity leave, and career transitions. For more information about the Working Families Initiative at Bauer College, including upcoming events, visit bauer.uh.edu/workingfamilies.
And we're back. Thanks for joining us again. We're here with Megan Iselin and Chris. Meg, say hi.
Hey.
All right. Now we were talking about kind of being a millennial, and you mentioned going after kind of what you want, speaking up. How do you find yourself, like, how do you challenge yourself to do that? What is it internally that drives you to do that, and what do you think if people may not feel comfortable doing that? Like, how do you challenge them to do that? What's the motivator?
So when you think about your career, day in and day out, you're going to work, clocking in, you're clocking out. I am a strong believer that the typical 9 to 5 does not exist. For good reasons and for bad reasons, right? Work-life balance, you can kind of flex those hours, but that means that you have to shift them around, maybe to the weekend, or that means you just put in the hours until the job gets done, and it gets done well, because I really encourage you to take pride in your work. And I think what's really important for everyone to realize is that at the end of the day, it's just a job. If you're not happy, remove yourself from that situation. because happiness is an option and it's a mindset, and I strongly encourage you guys to choose it. Don't ever feel like you have to do something because someone told you to. Don't ever feel like you have to take a job because it's what you do to get to the next milestone. Because one day you're going to wake up and you're going to be miserable. And so I really encourage people to put careful consideration into their first job. But then remember, it's not going to be your last job. And to really, like I mentioned earlier, to just self-reflect, assess, where are you? Are you happy where you are? What other opportunities are there?
Yeah, no, I think happiness is 100% a choice for sure. And I think people, I think there's a lot of millennials, and that's why we get a bad rep, is that, well, we leave because we're not happy at the first job. But at the same time, you ask yourself, like, well, is this first job, am I happy at it? One, and two, is this the cause of my unhappiness? It may not be your job, but you have to reassess whether or not it is. And then from there say, okay, is this job really going to get me to where I want to go personally, not just for your career, because your career is an aspect at the end of the day of you. It really kind of depends on that balance. Did you, as a student, did you ever take a class that, you didn't have to do, but you did because you wanted to and really enjoyed it?
I definitely took some specialty electives.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, for my political science elective, I took national defense policy.
Whoa.
Which is actually really great. This professor who had his PhD in political science actually had an accounting background for his undergraduate degree.
What?
Yeah, so it just goes to show you never know where people at Bauer are going to end up, or just with a business background. But I also took a lot of fun electives outside of the accounting department.
Yeah.
I'm really passionate about our accounting department and our initiatives here, but Bauer as a whole is doing some really great things.
Yeah.
One of my particularly favorite classes was marketing, actually. Yeah. I feel like marketing is a great tool, not only for your personal marketing and your personal branding, but just getting an understanding of how businesses market and just being more aware of how people are selling goods and services to you based on like the data analytics that they go through.
Absolutely.
Because if you think about it, whenever companies come to Bauer to recruit, a lot of those are marketing specialists. It's their job to recruit you to the firm.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean you're going to work with the marketing department day in and day out. So I would really encourage people to take the time to network with people who they would be on the project with.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. I think it's also, it's easy to get kind of bogged down in, this is my major, these are my friends who are in my major, but businesses aren't run with just a marketing department or an accounting department. Businesses take a whole business kind of college to do, and that's why we have our 7 majors, and it's always good to kind of remember that. And you also said something that I thought was really insightful too, is that remember that whenever you're talking to a company at a career fair or something like that, you're being recruited, and that's a marketing side. But you always should take the time to talk to the people who you'd be working with. If you're an MIS major and you're talking to a recruiter, you need to make sure that one, you realize that the recruiter is there to hype everything up. I mean, it's like our fun cheerleaders at the football games, right? Like they're there to bring the hype. They're the Shastas, right? But they're not the football players that day in and day out do the work, make the touchdowns. They're not our basketball players shooting hoops. I mean, like our great March Madness team. But yeah, at the end of the day, you need to make sure that the people who you're really going to be working with and the work is what you like versus what you're being kind of sold on. So I thought that was really insightful. What was something that you may not have been told as a student, but you kind of realized it as an alum on your own? Do you have any, advice there?
Yes. So kind of tying it back to our conversation that you and I had about happiness, is sometimes you're going to be asked to do things that you don't want to do. Mm-hmm. You're going to feel like the work is mundane. You're going to feel like the work should be outsourced. You're going to get really fatigued thinking, I paid so much for college and you're asking me to do such a minute task that literally anyone could do. I could pull someone off the street to do this. Why am I, a Bauer College of Business graduate, being asked to do such a thing? And sometimes it can seem like an insult to your intelligence. But just like your coursework here at Bauer, where you're supposed to learn your fundamental concepts, you should take that work and then build off of it to add value to wherever you're working and whatever you're doing. For example, I was asked to do something I thought was very easy. But from there, I can reinforce, why am I doing this? Why is this important to my client? How is this adding value? How can I add value? Just asking the questions of, why am I even doing this? Instead of just ticking the box, instead of just crossing things off of a list, just being very present and very conscious of things. Because I feel like as we move towards a more tech-centered data analytics world where things become more automated, we are missing and losing the purpose of the why,
Yeah.
of why things occurred. Because now, like in your accounting system, okay, things should reconcile. And then if things don't reconcile, then it takes someone to go in and figure out why. But if you don't have that fundamental understanding, then you can't tell when the system breaks, or you can't add value and do careful analytics and provide great consulting advice to someone else.
Yeah.
So I would really encourage people, and I learned this a lot whenever I was studying for my CPA exams, and I encourage people to be lifelong learners, to seek additional certifications, to come back for their graduate degrees, to just reinforce the fundamental concepts so that when you have firm fundamentals, you can kind of rationalize through higher levels of thinking and kind of from there ask bigger, better, more well thought out questions.
Yeah, I think that's a really good piece of advice. I think when I was an intern at ExxonMobil, one of the things that I kind of never really thought about, but they really advise us whenever we start full time, because we're a little different in that we do a kind of rotation for life sort of thing. But you're not always going to be happy with where you are, and that goes for any career. At the end of the day, we're doing jobs. We're not doing, and I think a lot of people I know say like, whoa, like pick your job based off of what you're happy at. And I don't disagree with that. But there's going to be aspects of the job that aren't fun. And not everything's a 100% roses, unless you like maybe on the marketing team, you get to have these cool initiatives like this. But there's not always going to be 100% fun times. So instead, ask yourself, like, what's the point? And kind of what you said, like, why am I doing this? And take that initiative to ask why and what value-added fundamentals you bring to the table for whoever it is. Because you mentioned being a good consultant is asking why. Well, at the end of the day, anyone who has a job is a consultant for their bosses, a consultant for their peers. Consulting isn't just the cool term that we give for companies like Accenture or Deloitte. It's everyone. At the end of the day, you mentioned you're selling yourself, you're selling your brand to your colleagues and your bosses and your bosses' bosses, and you're also being a consultant. You're being asked questions. You're being asked, hey, what does this report mean, or why did you do this, or why do we do this? And I think asking why is a really, really good thing that people feel maybe only happens in college, when in reality it should be happening everywhere.
And when you're not content with the answer you get to why, and you feel like things need to change, don't get frustrated when they don't change overnight.
Right.
Or don't get frustrated when you feel like things are stagnant, because if things change too rapidly, it just is always in a state of flux. Mm-hmm. And it's so disorganized and it's so chaotic, and it just causes way more stress. So just be patient, but feel confident in speaking up and contributing your ideas.
Right. You don't want to start. You don't want to be a trendsetter. You'd rather make positive change that's long lasting. I think and one of the leadership initiatives that I did and you did as well, one of the key pillars of leadership was challenging the process and always being willing to challenge what is and looking to kind of what could be and looking forward to see how could things be different and what are the steps that need to be taken. And it's not short term. It's always long term, and it's not overnight, like you said.
Just think about when Charles Ted Bauer left his legacy.
Oh man, I think about that all the time.
He was definitely thinking in the long term. I'm hiring all of these UH business students. They're helping my business. They're helping the city. It's time for me to help too.
Do you think he knew we were going to name this college after him? Like, I wonder if he was like, I'm going to do this. And I feel like they're going to, like, I wonder if he like knew, or if it was just like, surprise, we really like you. Thank you.
I feel like some of the best people just give.
Right.
Because they just want a better world, and then other people just kind of recognize that.
As they should.
Definitely. Yeah. And I feel like we have a ton of that talent in Bauer, or just that support Bauer, that didn't even graduate from our institution, and they're just so excited to give back.
Yeah.
Because we're doing great things here.
No, I know a lot of people who are just like, oh man, like I live in Houston, and y'all do some really cool stuff, and there's a lot of people who come and like recruit our students, and they didn't even go here, and hey, that's great for us.
Yeah.
I mean, I want UH Bauer students to remember Bauer, but I like when people who aren't from Bauer refer Bauer, as Dean Ramchan says.
Totally. Just stay plugged in as a young alumni, as an older alumni. If you move, just stay connected.
Yeah, I think this is really cool stuff. Do you have any other advice for graduating students like me, maybe for the life? I don't know. You mentioned your 401k. I don't know if anything really.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of setting yourself up for success in the long term. So I would really encourage people to carefully consider their personal finances, their long-term goals, whether or not that includes giving financially, giving of your time, and just staying plugged in with your network. I know a lot of times whenever you meet people, you send them the, hey, it was nice to meet you email, and then you just kind of drop off the face of the planet. But it takes time and effort to nurture meaningful relationships. And I would encourage you, whether you have childhood friends, high school friends, college friends, people you've just met randomly in whatever walk of life you've been along, to really take the time to just stay in contact with them, see how they are, catch up over a cup of coffee, and see how you guys can support each other, whether it's just an encouraging word or whether it's collaborating on some initiative in the community, at the college, or on a global scale.
Yeah, no, I think nurturing that network is huge. I mean, I read one book that I really like. It's called The Defining Decade, talking about how your 20s is the most important decade kind of to set yourself up for success. And one aspect is that the strength of a loose or like a kind of unconnected person who you're not close with. It's not one of your close circle friends, but it's someone who you chat with every now and then. Those are the people statistically who are the ones who those connections are what causes like these great leaps in opportunities for people. And it's really important that you don't just stick to your close friends, but you realize that like there's more people out there, and if you just take that time to nurture talking to them and nurture that connection, you can really go places, which I think is really cool. So I think we're about to wrap up. So for my final question for the Megan Iselin is, if you could do anything in the world, what would be like your biggest dream in your life? Like what is the big thing that motivates you? Like, and what do you want to do for your future? Watch out, guys, because this is going to be great.
So as I've mentioned multiple times, I'm really big into mentorship, giving back to the local community. I would really love to be in a people development position, whether that's in an HR capacity or whether that's building out business plans and putting teams together to really highlight people's strengths and to put together a really awesome project. And I'm just hoping to get the opportunity to just kind of share where I've been, share what I've learned, and really encourage and nurture people, because I know a lot of times life can really bog you down. But I'm really big into, like, through all the leadership initiatives here at Bauer, just like Strength Quest, maximizing strengths, getting teams together. And I'd be thrilled at the opportunity to get an opportunity to mentor people at a higher level within an organization and to really encourage and kind of just create a greater good with a ripple effect that really reaches a lot of people in a meaningful way.
Wow, it sounds like we need a little bit more alumni like you. I mean, that was just inspiring. And I mean, I haven't even graduated yet. Now I want to go change the world and follow in your footsteps.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Working Wisdom podcast series from the CT Bauer College of Business, brought to you by the Working Families Initiative. The initiative aims to provide support and access for women in business school and the workforce, and to generate research that organizations can use to implement policies and standards to benefit a diverse workforce. For more information about Bauer College and this podcast series, visit www.bauer.uh.edu/podcasts.